Stefan Savic. He's a 4-year-old Bosnian boy. Born with a devastating facial cleft, his future was very uncertain. He had little or no hope of a cure or a remedy for his unfortunate deformity. What he needed was a miracle, and it was a miracle he would get in the form of the 9th 12th Royal Lancers, and in particular one Staff Sergeant Wayne Ingram. 6 months ago, Wayne was in Bosnia on a peacekeeping mission with the Lancers. It was a tour that would lead him to Stefan. Now he's chosen to return. His destination, the home of the Savic family, a farm just outside the town of Laktazi, near Banja Luka.
It seems really strange being back here. I mean, it only seems like yesterday, but it's been 6 months. After everything that we've been through, so much has happened. It's been quite overwhelming, actually.
For Wayne, it was the climax of a roller coaster ride of hope and worry. A journey that had taken him and Stefan back to the UK and Great Ormond Street Hospital. Their goal, an operation that would change this courageous boy's life. This is their remarkable, moving story. Bosnia, a country still recovering from 3 years of savage civil war. A war that cost the country nearly 250,000 lives. Safeguarding peace and stability, a NATO-led stabilisation force, SFOR. Last March, B Squadron of the 9th 12th Royal Lancers arrived in Bosnia from Hona in Germany to take up their peacekeeping duties. They would be attached to the 1st Battalion, the Highlanders. Their role, to win the hearts and minds of the local population. Staff Sergeant Wayne Ingram was part of that force, but it was his heart that was to be won while on patrol at the local police station.
I first heard about Stefan on a routine patrol in Laktazi. And Laktazi is a small village 15 kilometres north of Banja Luka. I had a meeting with the Minister of Defence. Common interest is children. I have 2 children myself, so I showed him photos. He showed me photos of his grandchildren, and they said, "Look," he said, "have you seen this photo?" And it was of Stefan. From there, I met Milos, because Milos works in the same building. Heard the story, heard the history of what's happened, what's going to happen. I met Stefan a few weeks later.
Stefan suffered from a facial cleft, an extremely rare condition that meant the bones in his face hadn't joined as they should, leaving an abnormal gap between his eyes, down his nose and into his mouth. His parents were desperate for him to be given even a slim chance of being able to lead a normal life.
Stefan is a very, very clever boy for his age. He's a very smart, very intelligent boy for just 4 years old. He really needs to have this surgery. He needs this surgery so he can have a childhood like the rest of the kids.
Surgery offered Stefan his only hope.
It will make huge changes in Stefan's life. He will be able to continue his normal life without any complexes, without teasing from other kids. It's so important.
Such an operation would be a huge undertaking, costing tens of thousands of pounds. Money the family could never afford. And with Stefan starting school in the next year, his parents feared, after such a sheltered life, his appearance meant he would be harshly teased, his deformity making him the victim of playground bullies. They need not have worried. Stefan had some new friends, the 9th 12th Lancers. From the first moment they met him, he stole their hearts.
When the day came, really nervous, arrived at the house, and literally within a minute of being there, Stefan came running over, and he's just like any other normal child. He fell over, like a normal boy. He had bruises up his legs, got on his bike, said hello, and he cycled off. And the family made me feel welcome, and the rest of the troops made us feel welcome from the start.
As their tour went on, the Lancers spent more and more time at Stefan's home.
We'll quite often come down here to see him. And he likes us being here. He's always asking where we are every time his dad's out. he phones up Wayne, and Wayne will come up and see him.
A real bond grew between the British soldiers and the Savic family.
And the family just, they can't do enough for us. Anything we want, they'll go and get it for us. You know, just can't do enough. Stefan himself, top boy.
The soldiers of the 9th 12th knew a brave little fighter when they saw one. For 2 years, Stefan's parents tried their best to get the funds together for the complicated operation for their son. It proved an impossible task.
There are not many hospitals around the world that perform surgery for this kind of condition. We found one hospital in France, but they were very expensive, and on my wages of 150 euros, that's almost impossible to do.
Wayne had 2 little boys himself. There was no way he could stand by and do nothing.
If someone's ill, it's hard, but when it's children, I'm just thankful that both my sons are well and healthy.
Spurred into action, Wayne penned dozens of letters and emails pleading for help. One of them arrived at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, landing on surgeon David Dunaway's desk.
I replied back to him and said that I recognised this condition as a very rare craniofacial cleft, and there very possibly was something that we could do to help, although the surgery involved to treat Stefan's deformity was really likely to be quite major.
The condition was so rare that at Great Ormond Street Hospital only one case was seen every 18 months. David Dunaway and his team agreed to waive their fees, a huge boost to the hopes of the Savic family. But a lot of money still needed to be found. The Lancers set about raising it. Stefan's story caught the imagination of everyone, both home in Britain and in Bosnia.
The initial £14,000 was raised by the local community in Bosnia, in Laktazi. And it was irrespective of ethnic background. It was fantastic to see the amount of money which was coming in. We had a shortfall of £10,000. I went home. The local paper, Dorset Evening Echo, had a collection, and within 2 weeks we'd raised £17,000. It was amazing, generosity by people, just as soon as they saw the picture of Stefan.
It means the world that everyone supports us, but we're most grateful to the British Army because they helped so much. It's impossible for me to understand that they come from such a rich country as England, and they're so willing to help, and they're so friendly to us. It's very overwhelming.
With the money raised, Stefan was going to London. He could finally dare to dream of facing a more certain future. By July, everything was in place. Stefan and his mother and aunt flew into RAF Bryce Norton. This trip to the UK would establish whether it was possible Stefan could have this operation. There were no guarantees. Wayne Ingram was on the tarmac to meet them.
When I first saw the family at the top of the steps coming down, there was a sense of achievement, because this is the first step of many for the operation to take place. It felt good, because we'd achieved this part of the goal.
Stefan's arrival was to cause a big media stir. His sheltered world was about to be turned upside down.
British troops serving in Bosnia have come to the rescue of a young boy needing surgery on his face.
4-year-old Stefan Savic was born with a severe facial cleft. Peacekeeping troops stationed in Banja Luka raised thousands of pounds so that he could
While the
receive
country's
treatment
media
at London's
focused on
Great Ormond
Stefan,
Street Hospital.
for the brave 4-year-old it was business as usual, not a care in the world. And for his mother Slava, a brave face and high hopes.
Ovo je naš prvi dolazak u Englesku, uopšte.
This is the first time that we are in England.
Uzbuđenje je maksimalno.
I'm really excited.
Uzbuđenje nakon
And I hope that this trip will be successful.
Stefan had rarely ever left the town of Laktazi in Bosnia. It was a chance to see some sights, relax, and above all, have fun. So what of Stefan's future? What are his ambitions in life? Like any mother, Slava says he'll study. But Stefan wants to be a soldier like Wayne. In fact, Stefan wants everything: to see a future beyond his condition. But tomorrow would be another day. Stefan would meet the surgeon who hoped to transform his future. They arrived at Great Ormond Street Hospital. Many more visits were to follow. More media and publicity, then a rigorous series of consultations and tests. They would determine if the operation could proceed, but any surgery would be fraught with risk and danger.
It is, of course, a very major procedure, and gaining access to the bones around the eyes means that we have to operate in close vicinity to the brain. So part of the operation will involve protecting the brain so that we minimise the risk of causing surgical damage, and then afterwards we'll be taking lots of steps in order to reduce the risk of bleeding or infection in that area.
Concerns aside, for the soldier that brought him here, relief he'd finally arrived.
I feel a little bit overwhelmed, really, because seeing him actually in the hospital, it's good to see him over the moment. They asked me if I was emotional. I said no. I think the emotions will happen if and when he has the operation. I'm just pleased he's here. I really am pleased. And it's always fun to see him anyway. Always fun.
CT scans of the skull revealed the full extent of what was required to fix Stefan's face.
You can see that there are a number of abnormalities with the skull. The eyes are too wide apart. There's a very wide block of bone between the eyes, which gives him a very wide nose, and his teeth are in a rather abnormal shape. And you can see there are some holes in the front of the skull here. These are actually a result of his earlier surgery and the encephalocele that he had treated in Belgrade.
Days passed as Stefan's condition was assessed. It became an agonising waiting game for his mother, Slava. Finally, a decision was reached. The operation got the go-ahead.
He will look much more normal. His overall facial shape will be much better. He will appear to have a much more normal nose, and I think the benefits that we will be able to offer him will hopefully help his integration into school.
A date was set for October 27th. The family flew back to Bosnia. It was 3 months before they returned. Stefan and his mother and aunt touched back down at Heathrow Airport. No more tests, no more waiting, no going back. This time it was all for real. In 2 weeks, Stefan would be operated upon. 12 hours of surgery that would change his life. Waiting for them, as always, Wayne Ingram. For brave Stefan, it was all taken in his stride.
Stefan jedva čekao kad će da dođe.
Stefan, he could hardly wait to come to England.
Zna da treba na operaciju.
He knows that he has to do the operation.
Zna sve.
He understands everything about it.
At 4 years old, Stefan knew no fear. But for Slava, the enormity of what was going to happen was finally dawning.
Are you nervous at all?
Jesi mi imala nervozno s obzirom da sutra ideš u bolnicu?
Pa sutra nadam se da neću biti, ali na dan operacije sigurno da.
Because it's only for the tests. But for the operation, it's a totally different story.
When you've spent time with Wayne and Stefan and his family, you realise that something very special has happened between them. There's a bond, a friendship, a closeness that will carry them through the coming days.
Do you think you've got a little friend for life then?
I think so. I don't think just a little friend, I think the whole family members. Yeah, bless them. Yeah, they will be friends, definitely.
I guess it's almost they're part of your family and you're part of theirs.
They've invited me to Bosnia. They're having Stefan christened early next year, and they've asked me to be godfather, which is amazing. So I think, to be honest, it's going to be a friendship which is going to last for a long time.
As the date for Stefan's marathon operation neared, he underwent pre-operative dental treatment. 10 of his teeth were removed. With the teeth gone, David Dunaway kept a close eye on him.
Well, it's good to see that Stefan's recovered so well from having his dental operation. Right. So when Stefan next comes into hospital, of course it will be for his main operation, and we just need to go over and talk about the things that are going to happen then, so that both you and Stefan are well prepared for it.
The day before the operation, Stefan was readmitted to Great Ormond Street. All the family would be there at his bedside. For craniofacial surgeon David Dunaway, every last detail was checked, double-checked. He explained what Stefan's main operation would involve.
In order to gain access to protect the brain, we'll need to remove a block of bone from the forehead, take it away and save it so that we can replace it at the end of the operation. Once we've done that, we'll be able to lift the brain out of the way so that we can make some cuts in the bone around the orbits, and then we'll remove this central block of bone here and bring the two orbits, that's the eye sockets, closer together. Once that's done, the gaps are filled in with little pieces of bone graft that we harvest from the skull. We use some new bone to create a new nose for Stefan, and everything is fixed with tiny plates and screws.
Tomorrow, all the theory becomes practice. Stefan would be in theatre. The waiting was now over. David Dunaway's team made their final preparations for the lengthy operation. Stefan was already under general anaesthetic. With such a long and potentially dangerous procedure, operating so close to the brain, there was a possibility, a chance, that Stefan would not survive. For all concerned, it was going to be a long, difficult wait.
And how are Milos and Slava bearing up?
Under the circumstances, I think very well. I said to you, it's an emotional time, and it's also an uncertain time. So I think the next, how many hours it is, it's going to be a hard time for them, for all concerned.
And you saw Stefan this morning. How was he?
Stefan was Stefan. He was building bricks. I think Stefan seems oblivious to what's happening. It's probably a good thing.
At 8 o'clock that evening, the operation was complete. Stefan had been in surgery for nearly 12 hours. For 2 long days at Great Ormond Street, Stefan remained in a high dependency unit as doctors assessed how his marathon operation had gone. His parents never strayed from his bedside. Today, Stefan was finally taken off the at-risk register and admitted to the children's ward. For the first time, the results of the surgery could be revealed. The difference was staggering.
How are you feeling at this moment?
Kako se sad osjećaš? Presretno, prezadovoljno.
I'm happy, I'm overwhelmed.
Osjećam se kao najsretnija majka na svijetu.
I'm the happiest mother living on the face of the earth.
What have you got to say to the doctors and everybody who's worked on Stefan?
Šta bi rekla doktorima i svim ljudima koji su radili oko Stefana?
Neizmjerno mnogo hvala. Hvala je riječ koja mislim da je toliko mala, ali to je u ovom trenutku što ja mogu da kažem, ali beskrajno mnogo hvala svim.
Thank you very much. Thank you is such a small word, but that's all that I can say. Thank you so much.
Could you explain the emotions that you went through on Monday?
Kako se osjećao ti u ponedjeljak?
Teško je ta osjećanja opisati.
It's very hard to explain those feelings.
To je nešto unutar.
It's something you just feel inside.
And how do you feel now that the operation has happened?
A kako se sada osjećaš kad je sve gotovo?
Ono presretan, vidi ga.
Please, I'm so happy. Just look at him.
On je bio lijep meni, naravno. Majici je svakoj njeno dijete najljepše, bez obzira kako lice ima, kako izgleda. On je meni onda bio prelijep, a sad je neizmjerno lijep.
She says he was beautiful to me, like any mother who loves any child. He was so beautiful to me before the operation, and now he's perfect.
We're delighted with the results of his surgery, and it has gone about as well as we could possibly have hoped for, yes.
The last few days have clearly taken their toll on Slava, but today another cause for celebration. Stefan had opened his eyes. It was almost hard to believe it was the same child looking at you.
What was it like when Stefan opened his eyes for the first time?
I kako je bilo, kako se osjećao kad je Stefan otvorio oči prvi put? Fantastično.
It was fantastic.
Zato što čim je otvorio oči, vidjeli smo da vidi da mu je ostao vid dobar.
Because you could see that his sight was good. He saw us all. He saw all his toys.
And are the doctors pleased with how he's coping and how his treatment and everything's going?
Da li su doktori zadovoljni? Šta oni kažu? Znači kako ide njegova terapija, kako se oporavlja? Doktori su prezadovoljni.
Doctors are very pleased.
Čak su i oni iznenađeni uspješnom operacijom.
Even they were surprised when they saw Stefan, the result of the operation. They didn't expect that.
Stefan's operation's gone very well. He's made an excellent recovery, and we're really very pleased with the way the movement of the bony anatomy has gone. You can see the overall effect that the operation has had on the skull here. These are the eye sockets here, and if we compare them with the original view, you can see that they've been brought very much closer together into a more normal position. Around the top of the skull here, you can see that all of the bones have been divided up in such a way that we've made the frontal bones a more normal shape. And then the last thing that you can see on here is this little strut of bone here, which is a bone graft that we've taken from the skull up here and shaped it in such a way that it sits there and provides a basis for his nose.
2 weeks had passed since Stefan's operation. His near miraculous recovery meant he was ready to leave hospital ahead of schedule. Nevertheless, it had been a very long fortnight for Slava.
Bile su najduže 2 sedmice.
The longest 2 weeks.
Gdje je bilo i sreće. Jer operacija se čekala od Stefanovog rođenja.
We've been waiting for Stefan's operation since the day he was born.
Tako da je onaj sam dan operacije bio najduži dan.
But the day of the operation was the longest day in our lives.
But it had been worth it. Neither she nor Staff Sergeant Wayne Ingram could believe the difference in Stefan.
I was impressed after the operation, and that was with the bandages on. When I saw him yesterday, it's amazing. The transformation is unbelievable.
I tried to imagine him, what he would look like as any normal child, but I just couldn't do it. Whenever I saw him, I was trying to imagine that, but I could never expect this.
He's just full of life. He's full of life. And even with the major operation, which has only just happened, and we think it only happened 2 weeks ago. Look at him now. Just sums up what a strong personality he has.
Stefan's clearly proved how brave he is. Do you think he would make a good soldier?
I think Stefan, after going through this, can do whatever he wants to, and whatever he tries, I dare say he'll succeed at.
6 long months. Wayne and the rest of B Squadron of the Royal Lancers had dedicated much of their time to helping Stefan. Milos and Stefan Savic could not have imagined in their wildest dreams the transformation in their son. Wayne, his Lancer colleagues, and Great Ormond Street Hospital had made the impossible possible. For Stefan, it was finally time to go home. Laktazi in Bosnia. Weeks had passed since Stefan's incredible operation, and the Saviches were home. BFBS took Staff Sergeant Wayne Ingram back out there to be reunited with them.
So you're looking forward to seeing Stefan?
Yeah, very much. I always look forward to seeing Stefan, because like I said, it's the first time I've seen Stefan for 6 months back in Bosnia. And the last one was here was chasing chickens together. So let's see what this afternoon brings.
How are you?
Dobro, hvala. Zdravo. Kako ste? Da vam svijem, drago mi je.
Over the past year, the whole community around Banja Luka and Laktazi had rallied around. For Wayne, it was a chance to rekindle old friendships.
They make you feel at home, they make you feel like one of the family.
Stefan's looking fantastic, isn't he?
It's looking better each day, and I said the scar now is going down. I don't get better in time, as Dr. Dunaway said. It's good. I think they're going to turn the music back up again.
And for everyone, a chance to celebrate. To his family, Stefan had become a symbol of the future. To the 9th, 12th Royal Lancers who served there under S4, he was an adopted son. Back outside, walking to the car, Wayne and Milos record their first meeting. The meeting that had set Stefan on his way to London.
This is the first place that we met. I fell over there and then met Dragoslav at the entrance. And then we came up and see you. This is where it all began. Da. And it hasn't changed.
Ništa. Jeste, promijenilo se puno toga. Postali smo dobri prijatelji.
A lot of things can change.
Kumovi vam.
I kumovi.
Became such good friends, and you are going to be Stefan's godfather.
Yeah.
That's the thing that changed.
The last few months have been an emotional roller coaster for Stefan and his family, but the scars are already healing. As he grows, further operations will be needed, but for everyone, Stefan has the fresh start they dreamed of. In the new year, he'll be starting school for the first time, a big event in any child's life.
School?
Gone are his mother's fears he'll be bullied because of his appearance. For the man who 6 months ago came to Stefan's rescue, enormous pride in Stefan and real hope for his future.
He's an incredible child. And he's a child which has taught me so much, to be honest. He's got a bright future. But it's a future I want to be part of. The family have asked me to be godfather, and it's a privilege. I'm looking forward to it.